Today, let's dig into a highly rated soccer anime, Ashi. The story begins with a tough prefectural tournament featuring a junior high student named Aoi Ashito. With his exceptional soccer skills, he performs a hat trick to help his team tie the game. However, just when it seemed they might win, Aoi suddenly loses control and headbutts the opposing goalkeeper, shocking everyone present. This act not only gets him sent off by the referee, but indirectly causes his team to lose the match and costs Aoi his recommendation for high school. After the match, Aoi goes for a long run to cope with his mixed emotions, showcasing his incredible stamina. The bearded man tries to get Aoi to stop and chat, but as soon as Aoi stops, he collapses from exhaustion right into the man's arms. This triggers a flashback. Aoi has loved playing soccer since childhood, but was often rejected by youth clubs for his reckless style. After moving to a small town with his mother, he joins the school soccer team. At the team's welcome party, he boldly claims to be the reincarnation of Ronaldo at his peak, telling the coach that he doesn't need tactics because he is the tactic. Aoi's words shock the coach, but his teammates accept him, comparing him to a manga protagonist. For the first time, Aoi is truly accepted and begins to enjoy playing soccer with his teammates. Yet, his emotions once again lead to a team loss. After reminiscing, Aoi wakes up to find himself lying by the roadside, hearing the sound of a soccer ball nearby. He goes to investigate and is amazed by the bearded man's incredible soccer skills. Aoi eagerly asks who the man is. The bearded man doesn't reveal his identity, but offers to teach Aoi some tricks. Despite recognizing the cliché, Aoi can't resist and begins to learn from him. The man teaches Aoi that upon receiving the ball, his navel should face the direction he wants to run, and to ensure he has a good view, he should control his body positioning when stopping the ball, then run and shoot accurately. This technique is called designated direction ball stopping. To help Aoi master it quickly, the bearded man draws circles in the sand as targets for practice. As they practice into the night, Aoi's teammates and family begin searching for him, worried about his absence. Just as they're about to leave to look for him, the goalkeeper Aoi headbutted shows up at their door with his parents to apologize. It turns out Aoi lost control during the match because the goalkeeper had insulted his teammates and his mother, calling her a bar hostess. Back on the beach, Aoi still struggles with the designated direction ball stopping. The bearded man considers giving up, but before leaving, he wants to know why Aoi was able to score goals from rebounds during the match. Aoi uses a coin to explain that it's partly because his teammates trust him deeply, never giving up on passing the ball, and partly because he knows every player's position on the field. Surprised, the bearded man realizes that Aoi can remember the positions of all 22 players on the field. He decides to take a moment alone to think, but ends up falling asleep. The next day, the bearded man, who is the head coach of the Tokyo West Football Club youth team, wakes up to the sound of a dog barking and finds Aoi, who has practiced all night and mastered the technique. Impressed, he extends an invitation to Aoi to try out for the team. Aoi's mother soon learns of this, but hopes Aoi will give up the idea of joining the team due to their financial situation and her concerns about him going to Tokyo alone. However, Aoi's brother supports him and investigates the bearded man, discovering he is the former national team midfielder, Tatsuya Fukuda, a genuine soccer prodigy who entered the J1 League at 18 and started consistently at 20 before transferring to a top-tier team in the Spanish La Liga, only to retire due to a severe injury. Aoi's brother uses his savings to encourage Aoi to set aside reality and participate in the tryouts, giving Aoi a new goal in his soccer career. Inspired by Fukuda's words, "Come to the tryouts, and I'll take you to the world," Aoi decides to attend the youth team selection. But upon arriving, he collides with a beautiful girl, forming a classic anime encounter that hints she might just be a crucial character, reminiscent of Platelet from Cells at Work. The female protagonist, named Oka, is the younger sister of Coach Fukuda. In her spare time, she often comes to help her brother. Oka leads Aoi Ashito into the stadium, but she cannot understand what her brother sees in Aoi. After all, the other players attending the tryouts all come from prestigious soccer schools, while Aoi didn't even make it to the top 4 in Ehime Prefecture. Soon, all the players gathered, and Coach Fukuda came online to tell everyone that the destiny of professional soccer involves clubs poaching players from each other. But it's hard to guarantee that all these players meet expectations. His philosophy is to train his own players from a young age, which not only helps develop teamwork, but also allows him to better understand the players' abilities and personalities. However, the youth team tryouts are very challenging. Most of the players from the last session were promoted from the junior team, with only one making it through the tryouts. Moreover, among the 86 players attending this session, there isn't a single genius who could be directly recruited. Hearing this, a sense of dissatisfaction starts to emerge among the 86 players. Aoi finally realizes that if he doesn't make it through the tryouts, he'll have to go home empty-handed. After all, the youth team is not about nurturing talent. Its purpose is to select the strongest. The first physical test starts soon, and a young man named Utomo approaches Aoi. Seeing Aoi's trembling hands, Utomo thinks Aoi is nervous like him, but Aoi tells him he's actually excited to face strong opponents. This perplexes Utomo, who has never before encountered the protagonist's passive skill. The stronger the enemy, the more thrilled. Next is a 20-minute 7v7 mini-match. The grouping is very unfavorable for Aoi's side, with almost all the players from well-known schools. Aoi doesn't care. He launches an aggressive attack, but without his teammates' super trusted passes, his attacks falter and are even perceived as showboating by Utomo and others. Since it's their first time playing together, there is no trust or synergy, making the team disjointed. In reality, Coach Fukuda is not just looking for physical skills or technique, but the player's ability to think. Soon, Aoi figures out that he used to play freely because his teammates always supported him. Now, it's his turn to support his teammates, especially since he realizes that his team is not weak. With this realization, Aoi activates a God view, seeing everyone's position on the field. Fukuda notices Aoi's overview buff and gets very excited. Aoi then receives the ball and drops back to his own half, almost to the defensive line, confusing everyone and seeming like a sure path to failure. With only 5 minutes left in the match, two opponents tightly mark Aoi, eager to steal the ball. However, Oka notices something unusual. She sees an uncontrollable excitement in her brother, reminiscent of his own brilliant long passes during crucial game moments. Suddenly, Aoi breaks away with the ball and runs towards his own goal. Utomo sees this and instinctively calls his teammate Kaneda to start moving. Together, Aoi and Kaneda execute a beautiful long pass, with Kaneda not wasting the opportunity and scoring with a header. After the game, the coaching staff engages in a heated discussion about the players to be selected. Utomo, who was vocal when the team was at a disadvantage, is affirmed by the coaches. He had anticipated the players he might be teamed with in the mini-match and had communicated with them beforehand, easily passing the selection. Aoi, however, is the most controversial. His strategy of drawing in the opponents to exploit a brief lapse for the best assist of the match was brilliant, but his poor performance in the first half leaves the coaches conflicted. Meanwhile, Oka asks Aoi if his last move was just a fluke. Aoi isn't sure what happened. He just looked around the field, and his body naturally moved. Oka breathes a sigh of relief. She had almost thought Aoi was on the same level as her brother, but based on Aoi's description, his actions were more instinctive, while Fukuda's were the result of continuous thought. Two very different approaches. Finally, the coaches announced the selected players. Out of 86, only 11 remain, and the last spot goes to Aoi. Understandable, since he is the protagonist after all. However, this does not mean the selection process is over. In 30 minutes, the final assessment is about to begin. Upon hearing this news, Aoi Ashito quickly realizes that the 11 of them might be temporarily grouped together to face another team. Utomo, nervous to the point of feeling sick, is the first to respond. The next second, Kaneda and others gather around Aoi to start discussing. After communicating, Aoi truly understands the importance of this test. If they fail, their future in professional soccer will be out of reach, which is why everyone is so eager to seize this last lifeline. Take Tachibana, for example, whose team had planned to promote him to the youth team, but in reality, he had stopped growing as a player years ago. Because he was too comfortable in his familiar club, he had become dependent and lost his competitive edge. Therefore, he came here to start over and leave behind his complacent self. However, the path is not easy. Fukuda has arranged for them to face the current youth team, which sends shivers down the competitors' spines. Overcoming such a team sounds impressive, but the difficulty is exceptionally high. since the professional youth team's skills far surpass those of average high school players. Despite this, Aoi is not intimidated and is eager to compete. But Fukuda does not rush to start the match. Instead, he calmly informs the participants that he will announce something during the match. Soon after, Aoi and the others have assigned their roles, and Aoi, cheerful and unaware, does not realize he has become a target. The match starts sooner than expected, and surprisingly, the youth team is easily breached by Aoi and his teammates, not showing the high level expected. Could the renowned youth team be this weak? Everyone is puzzled, but then suddenly, the opponent transforms. Their passes become frighteningly precise, and with minimal dribbling, the ball is quickly pushed forward. OK is shocked, but Fukuda immediately explains that this is due to their high positional sense, passing skills, and spatial calculation ability. They can perfectly envision the same scoring routes. Despite this, Aoi does not give up. He uses the designated direction ball stopping he just learned to make a steal, but Akutsu captures his ball in midair and shoots directly, ending the first half. Akutsu perfectly predicts where Aoi will stop the ball, and before Aoi can react, Akutsu mocks him for his worn shoes and lack of talent. Akutsu, with his skill and taunts, makes Aoi start to doubt himself. No wonder Akutsu was the only one who passed last year's selection and became a mainstay on the youth team as a freshman. At this point, Aoi's teammates are demoralized, completely losing any desire to discuss tactics for the second half. Fortunately, Utamo steps up just in time to rally the disheartened players. As the second half begins, the youth team does not continue with the complex one-touch passing, but plays more practically. Aoi, however, regains his spirit and tries to challenge Akutsu for the ball, but hits what feels like a wall, achieving nothing. Even so, Aoi does not get discouraged. As a free kick is about to be taken, he fervently encourages his teammates. Unexpectedly, Akutsu uses a foul tactic by hitting Aoi hard in the chest as he falls, nearly knocking the wind out of him. But this only fuels Aoi's determination. "Help me out, senior. I can't just lie down here," Aoi thinks to himself, refusing to follow the usual route and nearly driving Akutsu mad. Then, suddenly, Fukuda steps forward and drops a bombshell. He had placed restrictions on the youth team by making every player, except the goalkeeper, play positions they had never tried before. With only 10 minutes left in the game, Fukuda's revelation feels like the final straw, causing Kaneda and the others to collapse, their eyes vacant and their skills off, not even knowing what to do anymore. At this moment, Aoi also feels overwhelmed. He wants to go back to playing soccer casually with his friends. But accidentally, he locks eyes with Fukuda. "Are you giving up? What are you giving up on?" Fukuda's challenge stirs Aoi. Imagining the scene of returning home and facing his mother and Shun's disappointed looks terrifies him more than comforting words. So, Aoi awakens, leaps up, and makes a beautiful clearance. Who's giving up? His fighting spirit surges and he soon clears a corner kick. Seeing his proactive attitude, Utamo also feels a change, his movements becoming smoother. Aoi knows it's time to drop the fantasies and fight. He runs across the field, his actions becoming more fluid. OK can't help but applaud him, and the other spectators quickly join in. At this moment, Tachibana's fighting spirit is ignited by Aoi, trying to coordinate with him. With only 3 minutes left in the match, an opposing fullback, Yuma accidentally commits a foul, delighting Aoi as they gain a free kick opportunity. Utamo volunteers to initiate the attack, and Aoi agrees without hesitation, though he can't help but wonder if Utamo has a split personality. Before the match, he looked timid as a mouse, but once on the field, he transformed into a big heart. Perhaps that's the power of passion. Utamo aimed a perfect curved shot at the goal's blind spot, but Akutsu's astonishing leaping ability sent the ball flying, signaling a counterattack. Shocked, Utamo immediately called for Aoi Ashito to defend. To his surprise, Aoi was already sprinting towards the ball. The opposing players were overwhelmed by Aoi's vigor, stumbling into a struggle with him. Akutsu was taken aback by Aoi's swift defensive move. Just a moment ago, he was near the free kick taker, and in the next, after clearing the ball with a header, he realized something was off and rushed towards Asari to receive the pass. As the match neared its end, although his teammate Nakano was exhausted, he still supported Aoi by winning back possession. Moved by his teammates' effort, Aoi felt emotionally boosted and activated his overview aura. Receiving Nakano's pass, Aoi immediately took the ball to the left flank, drawing the defender's attention. Akutsu quickly realized the danger and urged his teammates to defend, but it was already too late. Tachibana was ready to shoot, but he paused to ensure he completely outmaneuvered the opponents. He then passed decisively to an unmarked Utamo. Utamo took the shot, but at the critical moment, Akutsu arrived just in time to thwart the attempt. However, Aoi didn't give up. Anticipating Akutsu's anticipation, he took a fierce volley that successfully found the net. That marked the end of the match. Aoi and his team were thoroughly defeated, but fortunately, Aoi's last-minute effort resulted in a goal. Sadly, Aoi still didn't understand how he managed to score. His overview skills seemed to be triggered passively. When questioned by the coaching staff, he couldn't fully explain his play. After the match, Aoi returned to his hometown to await news from the youth team. 3 weeks passed, and he was still unaware of whether he had passed the assessment. Before leaving, Oka, moved by Aoi's performance, had slipped him a letter containing a nutrition plan and her contact details. Encouraged by his brother, Aoi called Oka to learn the selection results prematurely. Coincidentally, just as he dialed, his mother retrieved a letter of acceptance from the club from the mailbox. Aoi was overjoyed, and his friends gathered around him in jubilant celebration. His mother, however, seemed melancholic, as if she felt soccer had stolen her child away. Oka, hearing this over the phone, talked with Aoi about life that evening. She hoped Aoi and his mother could have an honest conversation. After learning that Aoi had gone to Tokyo for the selection without telling his mother, she scolded him. The nutrition plan was important as soccer requires both physical and mental effort. Aoi needed to nourish his brain well. Meanwhile, his mother regretted showing her vulnerability, worried it might add to Aoi's stress. However, Aoi felt he should have a serious talk with her. Unfortunately, Aoi and his brother had only seen their mother's strong side, so he was unsure how to express his feelings. He decided to seek advice from Oka. Right then, his mother returned home and overheard everything. "I still want my mother to live well. If I can become a professional player and earn a lot of money," Aoi said. Hearing her son's determination to ease her life made her eyes tear up, but she quickly composed herself, pretending nothing happened. Thus, Aoi's mother dramatically took over the phone to inquire about the club from Oka. Soon after, Oka and Aoi's mother exchanged phone calls, establishing a deep connection. Aoi's move to Tokyo was then confirmed. Unfortunately, mother and son never really sat down for a thorough talk. Every time Aoi tried to speak, his mother would change the subject. When it was time to part, his mother packed his luggage but decided not to see him off at the station. Aoi, disliking farewells, planned to leave quietly. Unexpectedly, at the station, his former teammates appeared and shared their heartfelt thoughts, nearly bringing Aoi to tears, but he managed to smile and say goodbye. Just before boarding, Shun handed Aoi a package prepared by their mother to be opened after boarding, leaving Aoi anxious. His mother had always taught him to speak face to face. She disliked indirectness, fearing the letter might contain bad news or even a disownment. Aoi was terrified but also scared of hearing her possible sadness. Finally gathering courage, he opened the envelope to find money she had saved for living expenses and a long letter. Aoi's mother had been unable to talk to him face to face, simply wishing for him to take care of himself and pursue his dreams. Before he left, she gifted him football shoes he had always wanted but never bought. At that moment, Aoi realized that his mother didn't care whether he was good at soccer or became a professional. He was already her pride. Overwhelmed by this realization, Aoi finally broke down in tears. His resolve to succeed as a professional player strengthened. Soon after, Aoi arrived at the club, excited by the sight of the main team's routine training. What thrilled him more was that his field was right next to the main team's, allowing him to watch top-tier players, including national team members, up close and possibly receive valuable tips. Soon, Utamo and Tachibana also showed up, having been the only 3 selected through the tryouts this year. Delighted, Aoi was even approached by spectators who had seen their selection match, asking for autographs in anticipation of their potential rise in value. While signing, Aoi noticed the signature Haruhisa Kuribayashi and was intrigued, although he didn't know who Kuribayashi was, sensing that he must be remarkably skilled. Utamo, speechless, explained that Kuribayashi, only a year their senior, was already training with the main team. That evening, as Aoi went to complete his club registration, he bumped into Yuma and Asari, who had played against them before. Yuma warmly revealed that he was originally a forward, which left Aoi feeling sorry for him, as he would now be a substitute for Aoi, the genius forward. This comment overwhelmed Utamo, who quickly reminded Aoi to use respectful language towards seniors. However, it turned out that Yuma and Asari were also junior high students like them, and had participated in the match only because their team was short of players. Asari, revealing he was a defender, greeted them cheerfully, but Utamo couldn't help but think otherwise. The assembly time had already passed, and Aoi and his teammates were ready to move into the dormitory, holding their team and training uniforms. However, the player discovered by the scout had not yet arrived. Initially, Aoi didn't mind, but surprisingly, this player was supposed to be his roommate. Aoi picked up the uniforms for his roommate, but he never expected that the mysterious roommate wouldn't show up the entire evening until Aoi fell asleep. The next day, the induction ceremony was held as scheduled, and Aoi learned that there were only 13 new team members this time. Besides the 3 of them who got in through the selection and 1 discovered by a scout, the other 9 were direct promotions from the youth team. There were also 4 coaches present: Tsukishima, a coach from the youth team; Zen, the goalkeeper coach; Ida, the head coach of Team B; and Fukuda, the general head coach. Ida explained that only those who performed well in Team B could advance to Team A, led by Fukuda. At that moment, a roaring motorcycle noise came from a distance, and a tall, tear-streaked man made a dramatic entrance. It turned out he was Aoi's roommate, the only scout player this year, Tomu Fuke. Utama was startled by Fuke's sudden appearance. Aoi, holding the uniforms, walked straight towards Fuke, telling him to hurry up and change so he could step down from the stage. When Fuke asked if Aoi was a direct promotion from the youth team, Aoi immediately denied it, which unexpectedly changed Fuke's attitude from unfriendly to friendly, his cheeks even turning red. Aoi instantly felt that his roommate must be a good person. However, Tachibana sensed something was off, feeling that if Aoi had answered yes, it might have led to some serious trouble. Back at their seats, Kurauda, another player who moved up from the youth team to the youth squad, specifically warned Aoi to be wary of Fuke and not to get too close. Aoi was stunned. Meanwhile, the others present couldn't help but discuss that the club shouldn't just accept anyone. Ida immediately defended the club's policy, stating that their team didn't need players who were easy to read because they aimed to compete globally. He emphasized that sometimes unconventional players, hard to handle with regular tactics, could significantly contribute to the youth team's development. Ida set the stage for Fukuda, who didn't make any serious comments, but instead proposed a wild idea: a scrimmage for the new players. If anyone performed exceptionally, they would be moved directly to Team A. Thus, the new players eagerly prepared for the match. Aoi, however, took an unusual approach and decided to rest for a while. Unbeknownst to him, the bench he chose was right outside the coach's room, and he accidentally overheard their discussion. Ida felt that the scrimmage was inappropriate, as the new players had just joined and were not yet familiar with the environment. However, Fukuda believed that given the diverse personalities of this year's recruits, it would take a long time for them to gel, so playing a match would be the best way for them to get to know each other. Ida understood this point, but reiterated that allowing Aoi through the selection was a mistake, as, in his many years of experience, Aoi would need a miraculous improvement to ever become a professional player. He even asserted that as long as he was alive, Aoi would not advance to Team A for the next 3 years. But perhaps it's time to see some miracles, as Aoi is determined to prove Ida wrong and show that he can indeed become a professional player. With his spirits high, Aoi prepares to demonstrate his worth in the upcoming scrimmage.